Yo, what's good, y'all? Shout out to everybody who's liking the Bible study from this morning. I know some of y'all don't be liking long videos like that, so I'm just gonna give y'all a short synopsis of what we talked about. So point number 1, we talked about your obedience is connected to somebody else's purpose, and slow obedience is disobedience. When God tells you to do something, like, essentially it's affecting somebody else's life. He doesn't just tell you to casually do it just to see you move. He don't say jump just to see you jump, just to see how high you can jump. Like, he tells you to move because your movement will affect a part of history that's going to affect somebody else's life, and so we just wanted to remind you to hear the Lord's voice, and when you hear his voice, act upon it. Don't be like, oh, well, what are people gonna think? Oh, I don't. Excuses. I gave the example, for instance, like if you heard my album Exit, shameless plug, we had the producer Taylor Hill on it. He also featured on the song Nice Things. But his obedience and listening to God and saying, hey, I think you should work with Wande, ended up elevating all of our lives. Y'all here listening to the music, me who created the music, it made a big difference, because he could have just been like, I've never worked with Wande before, why would I hit her up? And he could have moved on with his life. But literally him just casually being like, all right, God, you told me to do this, let me do this real quick. It made a big difference, because now we made these songs that like are now affecting people's lives, such as Be Yourself, Happy, Nice Things. If you didn't hit me up, we wouldn't have been able to make those tracks. We wouldn't have been able to make this heat. We wouldn't have been able to elevate the sound. Wouldn't have been able to impact certain people's lives that are now getting impacted, all off of a simple, hey, hit this person up. And it's crazy because like it really be that small. Like God can really just casually hit you up and say, hey, I'm gonna need you to get up real quick. And like you don't realize why he's doing so. Like for instance, this morning, God told me get up at 3 o'clock in the morning. Normally, I would have gone back to sleep, but he said, nah, get up. And he's taught me a lesson on obedience multiple times. So, you know what I do? I got up. And so I was thinking, oh, he's telling me to get up because he wants me to write a song. I ended up writing a cute little song or whatever. It was nice or whatever. But then that wasn't the purpose, because after I was writing the song, I went on IG Live to discuss it. And then I felt like God was telling me to do a Bible study. And then that thing was able to now affect other people's lives. So it's crazy because like your small obedience can lead into other things that now are affecting the lives of others. All right. We also talked about Joseph. We read Genesis chapter 39. Some key takeaways for that were, even in the midst of faithfulness, you can catch some L's, unfortunately. But know that and be confident that in your faithfulness, the Lord is with you and he will not leave your side. So even though Joseph was catching some L's, he was in prison after being faithful and trying to represent for God. He caught an L. The Lord was still with him even in prison. He ended up becoming a leader in prison. It's like Joseph was a son. Like, he was living nicely, but his brothers sold him into slavery, and he ended up in a position where now he has to work for somebody. And in that situation, even though it was an L, because it's like, this is not my home, I am enslaved right now. Even in the midst of that, God was still with him, and people noticed, like, the Spirit of God is with this child. I don't know what's going on in this situation, but I need this person close to me because the blessings be following you. And yeah, that happened in Joseph's life. So when he was working for Potiphar, things were popping. Potiphar was catching the blessings off of Joseph for Joseph being faithful to God. And same thing, caught another L though. He ended up in prison. Still, even there, the guard was like, there's something special about this boy. I don't know what kind of boy this is. And the guard left him alone. They didn't torture him like that. They made him in charge of the other prisoners. He was like a little prison manager up in these streets. All of that to remind you. The third point that we discussed, while you're in a season of life, be present in that season. Don't be so focused on your destination that you're not focused on the now and looking at, what is God trying to teach me right now? What lessons am I supposed to be taking into my soul right now? So Joseph, when he was in that prison, he was being the best person he could be, He was just faithful, minding his business, taking it day by day. And yes, he wanted to get out, but that didn't neglect him from being faithful in the now.
He didn't go, man, I'm not even supposed to be here. I'm a slave, now I got thrown into prison, I'm serving God, but forget God, forget this. of y'all. I'm not even gonna do it. I'm not gonna talk to nobody in prison. I will just mind my business. Forget y'all.
But no, he was still faithful. He still was a little prison manager, doing his job, did a good job. And so much so that the other prisoners noticed, like, this is a good guy. This is a good guy. And little did Joseph know that this prison sentence was going to bring him to his destiny. So people would have been complaining, catching L's, misbehaving, not being present. He literally could have missed the blessing. He could have missed connecting with the people he needed to connect with that would ultimately bring him to his final destination. And yeah, I mean, the same things from Joseph's lives, if you want to hear a real world example, could be applied to my life. So for instance, right, before I got signed, I actually was working for the label that I am signed to. So as someone who knew God's vision from the beginning, similar to Joseph, who God told him, oh, you're going to be great, you're going to be doing all these things. So while I'm in this moment, right, working for the label, when I'm like, God, ain't I supposed to be signed? You told me I'm supposed to be signed, but I'm working for the label. This don't make no sense. So normally, traditionally, you could be like, oh, this don't make no sense. Like, forget this. I'm not going to accept this job. Oh, I'm too good to do all this. I'm too good to do this. I'm too good to be an intern, do all this, whatever, right? But despite that, I was still present in the moment. And in the moment, I was like, well, let me just do the best job I can, mind my business, go home, work on my music, come back to work, do what I need to do. And similar to how Joseph had no idea that actually being in prison would be a blessing to him and connecting with the people that need to be connected so conversations could be had elsewhere beyond him, so that way he could be brought into his purpose, I worked at the label and ended up getting connected to the people I need to get connected to. Conversations were being had outside of my knowing, and you know, God was just working everything out and aligning it to ultimately his plan got fulfilled. And so the biggest thing I learned was like, hey man, don't question it. God working it out for you good. Don't question it. If you're faithful, be confident knowing that God is with you. But yeah, guys, that was just a little synopsis of the word of the day. I hope you liked it. I hope you've been tuned in. I hope you've been tuned in to Exit too and checking out my album, Exit. If you've been tuned into that, you would know that I said that every exit is an entrance. And similar to Joseph, how every opportunity that seemed like an exit in his life and seemed like an L and seemed like, oh, well, this is the end. No, it actually was an entrance into a new place that God was taking him to be. And in order to enter into where God was calling him, he had to exit several phases, and he had to learn and be present in those phases. And that's exactly why I called the album Exit. I know a lot of y'all were wondering, like, why is the album even called Exit in the first place? But yeah, it's called Exit because in order to enter the new season of where God is calling you, you have to exit the old season. And in order to exit the old season, you have to reflect on the lessons that God is teaching you in those current seasons. And so Exit is basically just kind of walking you through, what lessons am I learning in the season? What is he trying to teach me right now? Like, am I soaking that in? Yes or no? I hope y'all enjoyed the message. You know, y'all gonna be getting more because, you know, the Bible full of them. And I'll be reading the Bible or whatever. So, yeah, I hope you enjoyed yourself. Have a blessed day.